Did you have any like cultural shocks, or like what was your first impressions?
When we were picked up at the airport, the taxi driver immediately gave me a warning. He said to me, "Don't get into a fight when you are here."
Okay.
And that really
Very
actually,
random.
yeah, that alarmed me. And then he spent the rest of the journey from the airport to Orchard Road telling horror stories about foreigners that come here, get into fights, get thrown into jail, and then kind of kicked out the country.
Yeah.
I don't know why he decided that that was an important story to share with me, but I can tell you since I've been here, I've not experienced anything like that at all. In fact, it's the safest that I've actually felt in any country that I've ever been in, particularly compared to the UK. First impressions on arrival, friendly. Like in the UK, you get a taxi, you're not going to have much of a conversation. Apart from that, flipping hot. But I expected that. So big fan of air conditioning, moving not in the hottest time of the day. Busy, a riot of the senses. I know it's a cliche, but so much happening, so much going on, so much amazing food.
Okay, being a British, like you guys have the reputation of being super polite, super careful of what you're saying, like being super, super nice to people. In Singapore, I feel it's like Chinese culture, it might be a little bit different, sometimes straightforward. Let's say people talk about money more easily and more directly versus, I would say, like British or maybe Westerners in general, like Europeans. What differences, what like features in communication in Singapore versus your home country you found in here?
Firstly, to address your statement about Brits being super polite, cultured or whatever, that is completely untrue. And I think anyone that follows international football, they have seen that. I think that the old British reputation, for some reason, the UK has managed to hold on to the positives by and large, but as the world moves on, I think we're losing that now, and rightly so. Anyone that's been to the UK, you know what it's like. It's not all high tea and everyone stiff upper lip and a top hat and a suit. It's very different from that. In terms of in Singapore, communication-wise, I've not yet been confronted with the same bluntness that I have in other countries. So Indonesia, for example, it would be very, very common for someone to ask you, if they'd never met you in your life, how much do you weigh? That was one of the opening questions.
Okay,
or if you are wearing a watch, how much did that cost? And again, it wasn't meant as being rude. It was just, you know, in the UK, an opening question might be, what do you do? In Vietnam, again, brutal. They would say to you, oh, you look fat today, you've put on weight. Or, gosh, did you not sleep very well? You look very tired. So far my experience here has been nothing but charm. One thing that I'm really curious about is in different cultures here, what is perceived as being polite and what is being perceived as being impolite. Who gives up a seat on public transport for whom? So it's interesting to see that some nationalities seem to prioritize children and give up a seat for a child on a train, whereas others, it's more for the elders, or for others, it's me first. That's really interesting to see that. Or
like, what can you give me an example? Like in Singapore,
yeah, in Singapore,
elderly.
So
or
no,
like
no,
kids,
no, no.
or like the mix, the whole mix of
mixed, so total
okay,
mix.
okay.
So it's really fascinating. If you're on the MRT and you hang back and you just watch these interactions, because you know there are priority seats in place, right? That people are expected to give up to those that need it more than them. So in the UK, you would only give that up probably to someone that is very, very, very old. And you've got to be careful, because if you give it up to someone that you only think is old, but they're not, you're going to be in trouble. And again, if someone is pregnant, but again, that is a minefield, because if they're not pregnant, you're in trouble. Whereas here, it seems to be there is not a common rule for when you should give up a place. So what I've noticed is a lot of people will perhaps have immediate blinkers on and they won't notice that there is someone that would benefit from a seat. And then in some instances, someone will jump up to give a child a seat. In the UK, that would rarely, I think that wouldn't happen. And then the child will be prioritized over the parents or potentially the elderly. So it's just been really interesting to see those differences amongst different groups as well. So it seems that there are perhaps different rules, or maybe not rules, but different norms for different groups within Singapore, and maybe individual preference as well. But one thing that I've found really interesting is now that I go on public transport, I don't wear a mask now. I used to, and I've stopped wearing it. But I've noticed that a lot of the, and I hope I don't say the wrong thing here, ethnic Chinese, they consistently wear a mask. And I think that that is seen as being important and perhaps being polite. So me as a foreigner not wearing a mask, I wonder how that is received by them. But the flip side of that is I've noticed quite a few older ethnic Chinese people listening to their phone quite loud. They might be watching a movie and no headphones, but full volume, and that is completely normal as well. So it's absolutely fascinating as a new person just to see these different things that in my country, listening to your phone loud on public transport, good luck. You're probably going to end up in a bit of an altercation. Here, that seems to be quite normally accepted. So I love the differences that you encounter no matter where you are in the world. And it's just fascinating to see what is okay, and then to flip that around on myself and think, oh my goodness, what am I doing that other people are seeing? Oh my goodness, that guy is incredibly rude and I have no idea. So I think that's one of the joys of living in another country, that you are forced to reevaluate what you do, what is normal, because culture, it's such a hard thing for us to observe of ourselves. It's only when you've been away from your own country and then you go back, like you've been outside of Russia for some time, right? And I'm guessing that when you go back to Russia, you see things differently that maybe if you'd not have left, you wouldn't notice in the same way. So it's fascinating. Life is fascinating, seeing these differences and asking why. I love that.